Unfortunately, the process isn't over because it can't be over. Because, look, I've covered the NBA long enough to know nobody is totally untradeable, right? Like, we've seen some contracts moved that you never would have thought could get moved. But Embiid and Paul George are as close to untradeable as imaginable.
Paul George more than Embiid to me.
See, I think Embiid both are. Because George is averaging 10 points over his last 5 games. And he's got 3 years, 152-ish million left. But Embiid's got 4 years, $250 million roughly left. And he is broken down. I don't think a team like, even, and again, this wasn't a wise thing to do, but Dallas, one of their rationales for trading Luka or not wanting to they didn't want to give him this huge contract because they said it could be a Joel Embiid thing. What I do if I'm the Sixers now, since this is pretty much my team, I don't think I can change it much, at least with the stars. I am sitting, Joel Embiid said he may need another knee surgery. Sit him down now, get that surgery if he needs it, and get him as ready as you can for next year. This year, you're 11th right now. Even if you make the play-in, you're not doing it. You make the play-in or the playoffs, you're not going anywhere. You're not. So get Embiid as ready as you can for next year. Paul George, I mean, if he's healthy, let him play, try to play out of this slump. And Tyrese Maxey is a keeper, obviously, but that's what they have to do because I don't think you can move these guys.
Yeah,
to me, the main culprit of this Philly season being quite as bad as it has been is actually Paul George. Because the idea behind signing, like the big last offseason, remember? They kind of were just in waiting because it's like, we're going to have this max salary spot. They had targeted Paul George. At the time, I defended my pal Daryl Morey, saying they have a plan. People didn't think they were going to be able to do it. They're like, no, Clippers will keep him. They're opening a new arena. They got him. Then Paul George got there and immediately became the worst version of himself there's been to where, again, without Embiid, they can't contend, obviously.
Right.
But you would think that roster of role players plus Maxey and Paul George should be enough to be
in the play-in.
Right. To be a couple games below 500 instead of 14 below 500, and then Embiid.
Honestly, even better than like 4 games under 500. I mean, seriously.
No,
just Paul George and Maxey.
And so that part is frustrating as far as they shouldn't be in this position, but they are. Then there's the Embiid piece of it, which is he wins the MVP, comes back last year, and is better. It was unbelievable last year, and it was going to be a weird thing like, ooh, we're going to give him another MVP after another playoff flameout, but then he got hurt. So since winning the MVP, games played, games missed. And that seems, I don't know which graphic's worse, that one or this next one, which is just his whole career. Brew, if he does shut it down, he's almost 1 for 1. So here's my question for you. Are we looking at Embiid through the wrong lens, and that it should be more of the way we look at Grant Hill? Like, man, that guy was a hell of a player whose body gave out on him. Like, nobody kills Grant. Nobody historically is like, man.
And Grant sat out, 2 seasons straight or something like that?
Grant sat out a couple seasons, and he never reached the heights where he was. Or the way we look at Penny Hardaway or the guys who it's like, man, that was a guy tracking towards being a legend. And none of those guys actually quite reached the heights Embiid reached, whose body just wasn't built for it. It feels like Embiid gets a more caustic, criticism. Now, maybe it's because of some of his comments. Maybe it's because it's always someone else's fault. I don't know. But do you understand what I'm saying? Usually athletes who it's just like, man, guy was hurt forever. We don't kill Bill Walton like those guys.
Walton is a good comparison. But Walton at least delivered you that championship before he really started getting hurt, and that's what Embiid hasn't done. And I think the difference is, that's a good point you brought up, but I think Grant Hill, and Penny, it was like one major injury, they never recovered from it, right? Embiid has kind of been just throughout his career. We've seen him be great, then he gets hurt, then he comes back and he's great. And I also think the fact that he has been worse in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I really think some of that is mental. I feel like even that highlight we showed at the start of this segment when he could have taken a jump shot, which he always takes jump shots, and instead of taking the jump shot to win the game, he decides to drive. That's like, that's a weird mentality, and I think he does struggle mentally in the big moments and in the playoffs. So I think that hurts him as well. But you don't have a choice. Like, he's getting paid so much money. He's still young. Like, you just got to try to make it work.
You got to give the whole league's off till Thursday. Lakers Hornets, however, play tomorrow. This is one of the makeup games due to the tragic wildfires in LA. We'll see if LeBron plays. Luka is all systems go. Here's Luka's numbers. His first 2 games with the Lakers. Listen, you know what they say. People go to play with LeBron, numbers go to die. And he just sucks the air out of the offense. Kevin Love's like, I could have warned you. Brew, what version of Luka do you expect to see tomorrow?
You know, it's interesting because as I was prepping before the show, I was assuming LeBron was going to play. And then I'm not blaming it on LeBron as far as this comment about Luka, but I was going to be like, I don't expect to see the Luka we all have come to know and love. Because I don't think he's fully in the shape he needs to be. But 2, I still think they're figuring out how to use him. I don't think you're going to get the Luka MVP candidate until they put the ball in his hands almost, all the time. And if LeBron doesn't play, like you mentioned, then I think the ball will probably be more in Luka's hands and you might start seeing those MVP numbers. I think they should do it anyway. I think LeBron can obviously play well off the ball, and he's going to give you 7, 8 assists no matter what, and he can give you 25-plus points. So that's the key. If they put the ball in Luka's hands tonight or tomorrow night, which I don't expect fully, then I think we won't see that Luka until they start to put the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he has to be the Luka that we've all come to know.
All-Star game, made it seem like it was precautionary and that he thought he might be playing in the All-Star game, and then it tightened up. So I would think he's going to play, but I also think we're going to see the first great Luka game with the Lakers. I think that because the first game's weird. They're up by 100 or immediately. They don't even play in the fourth quarter. And then the second game, they just get crushed on the glass. They're down. The kind of a weird game in both regards. Now Luka's been there a couple games. There is also the added scrutiny on LeBron for the All-Star game stuff, and he tends to want to kind of send messages sometimes, and I think he's going to send the opposite message you normally would be, which is go out and try to score 30. It's like, no, Luka needs to have his first great Laker game. The Hornets are a great team to have that opportunity against, and I do think LeBron knows he's the one who needs to adjust in this relationship. Because
and they need to do it. Because they got Austin Reeves bringing the ball up, LeBron bringing it up. Sometimes Luka, do it.
And so I think the out of shape piece was, while overblown as a rationale for him being traded, almost underrated in talking about his performance the first couple games, because that was out of shape of the longest time off of basketball of his life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's never suffered an injury that had him out that long. Now I think he's probably more in shape. I think he puts up his first 30-point game with the Lakers, has the ball a bunch. All right, coming up next, is Aaron Rodgers the best free agent quarterback available? We'll discuss that next. First things first.